Welcome to the Beyond Business as Usual interview series. My name is Philippe Dubray, and today I have the honor and privilege to be interviewing Shari Costantini, who's the CEO of Kismet Technologies. Now, I'm saying honor and privilege because it is true. I mean, you've had quite a journey as an entrepreneur, right, Shari?
I have. And like many, not all entrepreneurs, after I built a successful business, I decided to do it all over again. But yeah, I tell people that when I first became an entrepreneur, like many, I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Mm,
was in a business where I saw an opportunity to bring a unique positioning to that industry. And so that was international healthcare staffing.
okay.
So I started that company in 2003. I grew that company over 18 years. I had private equity, then I had a strategic partner. And over those years of kind of navigating immigration, healthcare regulation, I was able to grow that business to about $175 million.
Wow.
And so that year I exited the business. I felt like I had accomplished a lot of things that I had wanted to accomplish. I found a home for the company with a strategic that would always grow it. And then I started the journey all over again in 2022 with Kismet. And once again, I realized I didn't know more than I knew. So I knew the entrepreneurial journey and I knew a lot of the things I needed to do, but this is so different and so technical that it's really been a huge growth edge for me. So.
That's very interesting. So you are a successful entrepreneur. You've done it. You lived the life. You've bought a couple t-shirts, I'm sure, and there you are starting over again. I mean, it's like somebody might want to think, well, why would somebody do that? Why would somebody just achieve success, get to where they want to be, and now go like, I'm going to start this again, right? Why would motivate somebody to do this, Sherry? I'm very interested on this.
Yeah, I thought, and I have taken a lot of the lessons learned and use those to, grow this company. And so it's not playing out exactly as I had intended. When I first joined Kismet, the inventor of the technology was my business partner. As the company went to market and started to commercialize the technology, it was clear that we needed to move from a space a lot of technical companies and inventors find themselves in, which is more of a research academic mindset, to a commercialization mindset. And that wasn't something that she was prepared to do.
Hmm.
And so then I found myself in the driver's seat alone again, which is okay. I've been there before. Um, but, I've been fortunate to bring on some very sharp technical people to fill the gaps. But, this is a tough one.
Hmm.
Before I was in staffing, I was dealing with people, and there's a lot of variables in that.
Wow.
Now I'm dealing with technology and innovation and getting that technology to do things that other people have not been able to do before. And what we are bringing to market with this natural mineral, natural biopolymer, antimicrobial is incredibly innovative. We're disrupting a $10 billion antimicrobial additive market that really is facing huge regulatory headwinds as agencies in the EU and the EPA here in the US look at things like quaternary ammonia compounds and say,
What is
is this
that? I'm sorry, I'm
it's
interrupting you. What is that
yeah
stuff?
So, a quaternary ammonia compound is a very common and a very inexpensive disinfectant that we all use in our homes, that's used in hospitals and, restaurants and everything like that. But it's also been shown to potentially be an endocrine disruptor and cause potential neuro effects.
Wow.
So, we also use metals a lot. We use zinc and copper and silver, and there's toxicity related to those antimicrobials. So, as I'm sure we've all experienced, and we're certainly living it here politically in the US, is a real shift um, away from things that are in our environments that are potentially making us sick. Um,
Mm.
and so they're doing what they want to do and killing germs. But in some cases, like in healthcare environments, we're creating superbugs as well.
Wow, I
And
see that.
yeah, so, healthcare alone, which this was really the hook for me being in healthcare staffing, being a nurse, being in the industry for 35 years, is, you know, about 1 in every 30 patients in the US and gets a healthcare acquired infection. They're in an
Wow.
environment that is dirty, and because you've got sick people everywhere, coughing and, with different infections. And so people go into the hospital and get another infection from being in the hospital. That's why you've heard the expression, a hospital's no place for a sick person.
Yeah, I've heard that. I
Yeah.
completely heard. That's true.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out a better way to disinfect those environments by creating a technology that only works when there's a pathogen present. A
Mhm.
bacteria, a virus, a fungus um, will create a reaction with our technology where it produces hydrogen peroxide at a micro level until those pathogens are eradicated. So it's really like amazing. And so, like I said, that was the hook for me. I spent all these years trying to fix staffing crisis, and I'm like, well, if you could eliminate those infections that all these patients get going into the hospital, think how much you could benefit the staffing situation.
100%. Plus, all the nurses and the people that are there to, I mean, they're exposed to those to those microbes
Exactly.
as well. So it's not like a very nice place to work in if you're like, so your product is amazing. Now it's interesting because I'm hearing you, and I'm listening to what you have to say, Sherry, and I can see that as an entrepreneur, you see an opportunity, right? But the opportunity is not driven necessarily by the dollar sign. Yeah, of course, there's money at the end and there's a transaction, and look, you've made it, right? But this is not what drives you. I mean, I hear it in your voice. What drives you is, I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact and I want to help people. And this is something that is so common in many entrepreneur that, what's driving them is the wanting to make an impact, the wanting to make a difference. And that pulls you through. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry, but that pulls you through all the challenges. It makes it all worth it, doesn't it?
I would tell people when I left my last company, I said, my biggest fear is that I will never find an opportunity to make impact like this again.
Wow.
Over the course of 18 years, I had brought people into this country as healthcare professionals from all over the world. But I didn't just help impact their lives, the communities they were going to, and the patients, but the money they sent back to their home countries made a huge impact for their families and their friends. So, yeah, that was a big fear of mine. And then, I was introduced to Kismet, and I thought about, the number of lives that you can impact by decreasing infections, by decreasing contamination in food. Last year I think we had 300 food recalls in this country.
Wow.
And, that was double the year before. and not just the economic impact of that, but also people lost lives. And they,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
And, in this country alone, we discard about 40% of food that never makes it to the consumer because it's expired or it's spoiled. And so, one of the things we're doing is we're trying to put our technology on food packaging and
Hmm.
get longevity from that food and decrease the growth of microbes on that food. And so that's another really exciting area that you can make an impact.
Oh, I can totally see that. I mean, 40%? Are
Yeah,
you kidding me? Really?
yeah.
40% will actually, it just gets thrown out because there's microbes or it's infected in some way?
Yeah, well, and the consumer, it can happen at the consumer level. You buy it, it expires before you eat it.
Right.
It can happen at the grocery store. That's a huge part of it, is what do they take in and what do they have to discard because it's past the sale date.
Hmm.
And, and then what do is we put preservatives in things and to make them stay healthy, but people are really shying away from
Oh,
chemicals. And, I was doing some research and I saw that just in personal hygiene products that have preservatives, antimicrobials in them, 73% of consumers across 60 different countries are willing to pay more for a product that's sustainable and chemical free. So, you look at our mineral based, antimicrobial, a safer preservative. That's what the consumer is demanding.
it's amazing. So now, okay, so now you get something that's brand new. It's a disruptor, right? I mean, it is what it is. It will change the face of lots of different things. It will impact things tremendously. So now, my question to you is, okay, so now you're bringing a product that's going to be changing things. Now, obviously, it's a new reality. People have to change their mindset on this. How do you deal with that as the person that is in charge of and pushing forward Kismet Technologies?
Yeah, it's really like, this balancing act, right? So my background is more business, marketing, sales. So I'm out there with my business development, my technical business development leader, and we are trying to find the innovators in industry, in big corporations, in mid-sized corporations that are willing to innovate with us. And that's not very easy. And then
Yeah.
on the other hand, I'm trying to take these scientists and engineers on my team
All
and
right.
get them to move more quickly and to say, what are our lessons learned? We need to fail fast, learn, and then go on to the next thing. Because once we find these multinational partners, mid-sized company partners that want to innovate with us, a lot of times you don't get a whole lot of opportunities to innovate, and so you want to get it right.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a real balancing act to be bringing innovation to market. Look for innovators, look for early adopters, and then get this team to really move quickly when they're research focused. We got to do this, and then we're going to try this, and it's a little hard for a type A person like myself. So
I get it. But again, uh, that's the game,
yeah.
right? That's the challenge. And I think you hit it on the nose when you mentioned, look, when you bring a new product on, when you bring a new idea in a society that will disrupt things, you got to you got to understand that the idea will be adopted by individuals, right? It's not a group that takes on the idea, it's individuals and looking for the opinion leader, the innovators, the people that will adopt and that will have that will be listened to once they adopt it. Now that's going to be, then you're going to get global acceptance of your product and
Right.
in agreement. So this is pretty cool. I like your strategy. This is great. Okay, so Kismet Technology, it's a great product. I wish all the success for you on
Thank you.
this because it's so much needed. Again,
Hmm.
and I think that the whole this there's a viewpoint like you mentioned earlier, right? You said like 73% of the population will pay more for something that is safer and that will, not be toxic to their bodies. I think that if you keep on the message and you will succeed. Look, it's needed and wanted. This is beautiful. Now, I want to take a bit of a trip back in the past, if you will. If you'd have a time machine, Sherry,
Hmm.
and you go back to the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, right? What what tip would you give yourself as an entrepreneur from everything that you've known, from the background that you have now? What would you tell yourself as a tip to make your journey? I would say more successful because you've achieved it, but more smoother.
Yeah.
Something that would make things go a little smoother for you as a younger self. What would you tell
Yeah.
yourself?
I think there's really two things. First, act like the company you want to be,
Hmm.
right? So if you want to be, $100 million staffing company, which was always like, less than 2% of all companies make it over that, then you have to think and act like that company you want to be.
Hmm.
And with Kismet, we know who we want to be, right? We want to be, this disruptive technology that goes into the products that we all use every day, whether they're consumer personal hygiene products or they're paints and coatings on the things that we rely on to protect and preserve them, or just a far better disinfectant that lasts for weeks and months on surfaces.
Mm.
So, we think about that goal and who we want to be. And so when you have the end in mind, I think it's easier to get there. And you need your whole team to kind of have that vision.
That's
Uh,
right. And what's the second thing?
I think the second thing is the fail fast, but learn from that, right? Because
Mm.
one thing, I struggled with a bit when I first got here to Kismet is, there were some failures, lessons learned in technology. Everything's not going to go well the first time you try it. And so it's really making sure that you reflect on the learning that you had from that so that you're not making the same mistakes in a different form, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Again, I think any entrepreneur will look, as an entrepreneur, you go into a journey. I mean, again, the future has this, it's not like everything is created. I mean, you creating something, you take something from nothing. I mean, back in 2020 or 2021, Kismet technology didn't exist,
Yeah.
right? There was nothing there. Now here you are with a nice productive plant. We got, a big, research and development team. Now we get into commercialization. That was created, right? And the creation of it, to me, it makes a lot of sense because as you create it, you make mistakes because you don't know. You got to be willing to learn from it real fast. So these are great tips. I'm so happy that you shared this with us. Um, we're pretty much to the end of our podcast right now. Is there anything you'd like to add, just as it relates to Kismet technology in terms of what's the future look like in the next year or two? What's the big plan? Where you want to go? I think you mentioned it a little bit, but I'd like to just wrap up the interview with a little bit of this, if you will.
Yeah. Well, we have our first big joint development product launch with a concrete sealant in July. And so that's very exciting. And we hope to have several other products coming online early next year. Development isn't a short process. So, but right now we have 14 companies around the globe that we're working with. Most are in the US, but they have global reach. And we're just looking forward to getting some of these products, whether they're disinfectants, consumer products, or coatings, things that are on everything we handle daily, launched and out to market. So yeah, we're excited about seeing those final product launches, but it's a process. And so getting that first big one launched this summer is exciting.
Well, congratulations for this. And I'm sure like it's for you to see this coming up in July and go like, "Oh, finally, okay, good. So that's going. Now that's a nice stepping stone for, okay, so now we've got one. We've started to get onto market. Now, okay, so how do we replicate? How do we move this? And I'm sure for the rest of the team, it's encouraging as well, right? And it gives them like a renewed purpose, a new renewed drive. So, hey, wish you the best of the success for this. I'm sure we'll hear more about Kismet Technologies in the years to come. So again, well done. Thank you very much for sharing all of this wisdom, your journey, your entrepreneurial journey. It's amazing and well done. Well done.
Thank you.
This is great. Okay, good. So I'm going to be ending off the podcast right now. So this is Philip Duray signing off on Beyond Business as Usual. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.